Hello, and welcome to the Introduction to Asian Religions. Now, any college course is an introduction. In fact, most of what us professors do is introduce. And in fact, I think in your own learning and teaching careers, because we'll all be taught to do a little teaching at some point, whatever we do, you'll see that you are, for the most part, introducing. But just because it's an introductory course doesn't mean we can't go into some depths and sort of nuance the way we think about a lot of things. So I'm Dr. Ulrey. My specialty is I study magic and I study Hinduism. And I have some upcoming book projects in which I'll be writing about Shaiva magic, or magic from devotees of the god Shiva in Hinduism. And magic, by magic, I mean exactly what it sounds like: rituals that change the world, usually at a pragmatic end. So we'll talk more about that as we go along. I'm also working on a co-edited volume on folk religion. I just like to tell y'all where I'm at. Okay, so I am a professor at YSU, a part-time lecturer. I'm teaching a number of courses there. I've taught this course before, and it went quite well. We'll be using the same videos from before. You'll notice that my hair and beard will be different. But what I'm going to be really trying to do this semester is use the same videos, which went over quite well, and really kind of try to refine the assignment. So I'm going to try to be constantly working to make this course as streamlined as possible in the deliverables that you'll be asked to be done. Today, I'm going to read through the syllabus. You'll only have one assignment. It's a simple assignment for the next course, or for this week, which will be just to record a small introductory video of yourself, just a couple of minutes, so we can kind of build a community and post that on the discussion board, and then maybe comment on some other people's videos. I would ask that you watch those videos. I will watch them all and give you some comments on them. All right, so today let's go over the syllabus. I'll read you the description, and I'll talk about the topics, and I'll talk about the texts, and then you'll be off on your merry way, ready to enjoy this 16-week adventure together, where we're going to do something that we don't usually do in introductory courses. Usually an introduction to an Asian religions course would say Buddhists do this, Hindus do this, Chinese Confucians do this, or they'd say they believe this. But I'm going to look more into ritual and identity and ask, what do people do? And how do they think about themselves? So you will get a good understanding of the philosophies of this different religion, but we're going to go beyond philosophy. And you'll hear me say over and over again, religion is what people do, not what they think, not what they believe. Now, we as Protestants, I am a Protestant. I'm from the Protestant faith. I'm ethnically Protestant. And even as Catholics would argue that religion is what you believe, what goes on in your heart, what goes on in your soul. But in Asia, it's about what you do, where you go to worship, what you do, and who you worship. The idea of belief doesn't really come up in the same way because these religions are different. We are not in the Western world. We are going to another place. So now, let me share my screen, and we are going to read through the syllabus. Now, why do I insist on reading through the syllabus? So if I was teaching this class in person, I would read the syllabus out the first day and make comments on it. Why do I do that? It's a little bit boring, I understand. But the idea is that you read through it with me, you hear me talk about it, and we agree upon each other's expectations. So here we go. We are, today, we're going to look at the syllabus for Religions 2617, Introduction to Asian Religions. I would usually give you a printed version, but this syllabus is tentative, so I want you to defer to the modules as they stand on Blackboard, and I'll probably make a fair amount of changes as we go along, especially to the assignments. So this is an online course. I am Dr. Ulrey. Didn't call me Dr. Ulrey. Why do I insist on you calling me Dr. Ulrey and not by, like, my name is Aaron Ulrey? Well, it's because a lot of professors, especially professors of color and women, have a problem getting people to call them by their proper name, their proper chosen title, their earned title of doctor. So in solidarity with them, I will insist that you call me Dr. Ulrey. And professionally speaking, you should, and an undergraduate course is an exercise in professionalization. You should always call your professors, Professor Smith or Dr. Smith. Never go with Mr. Smith or Mr. Ulrey or Mrs. All sorts of problems there. This is just the nature of the academy and how it works. All right, so it's going to be asynchronous, which means you can watch these videos whenever you want. You can do the assignments whenever you want. You just have to get them in by the due dates. So our asynchronous lessons, your videos will go up on Mondays and Wednesdays, and your deadlines, so your deliverables for Monday will be on Friday and Wednesday on Sunday at 2 p.m. Now, I want you to have 5 days to do any of these assignments. Now, invariably, you are going to complain to me, and you will say, hey, I want to have the deliverables due on Friday at 11:59 p.m. and Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Well, that doesn't work for me. I need to have the time for grading. So if the 2 p.m. problem is really a problem for y'all to get stuff in by 2 p.m., I will just change it to Thursday at 11:59 p.m. and Saturday at 11:59 p.m. I wanted to give you that extra time, and because I start grading at noon here. That's how I do it. So I'm trying to give you an extra 14 hours. That's my reasoning. I live in Denver. I'm on Mountain Time, so I'm 2 hours behind you. I'll be teaching remotely. If you need to get in touch with me or need to have a meeting with me, I am available via Zoom, even the telephone or email. Most of my communication with you will be over email, but I'm happy to schedule a Zoom conference. I won't have specific office hours per se, but I'm available to you at any time to schedule. So use my YSU email that's listed above. You see that, amullery@ysu.edu. I'll check the email for approximately 1 hour every day. I would like you to compose your emails in formal English and strive toward professionalism in all your correspondence with me and with other students. Why is that? Because an undergraduate degree, as I said earlier, is an exercise in professionalization. Here's the COVID coronavirus syllabus statement from the university, and you've seen that in every class. Just be aware that it's not going to come up a lot for us because we're going to be online and we're not going to have issues with contact and with needing to go to campus. So here is the course description. Asia is hard to describe. Once upon a time, it was called the Orient, a term that actually means where the sun rises. The sun rises to the east. So when we look to Orient, when we orient ourselves, we are looking to where the sun rises. But this word east can be different depending on where one orients herself. And we ought now reorient ourselves often. Perhaps Asia is the land of enlightenment, self-discovery, primal authenticity, and many of you might have that idea already about Asia. Perhaps Asia, if you're from a marketing perspective or a business perspective, is an economic powerhouse, home to innumerable humans, land of bustling villages and giant cities. In reality, Asia is a collection of diverse cultures and people who sometimes overlap and often do not. Asia has a dynamic and incredible history that Westerners have mostly ignored. While its religious doctrines like rebirth and karma are often described, rarely are explored the details of religious practices, places, lives, and cultures. In fact, when you really start spending time living in Asia, you'll notice people don't really talk about rebirth or karma or liberation very much. There are other things they talk about quite a bit, like what is auspicious and what is inauspicious, what is good luck, what is bad luck. Introduction to Asian Religions surveys Asian religious cultures in India for the first 8 weeks. And the second 8 weeks, it's more like 10 or 12. And the second period will describe those Indic origin religions in Tibet, China, and Southeast Asia, mostly an awful lot of Buddhism, but also the indigenous religions of those areas, with an emphasis on regional cultures and adaptations of Indic religions to non-Indian locations. So while a lot of these religions started in India, we want to look at their lives when they're not in India. So it makes a lot of sense to start figuring out these origin stories of all these religions in India and then see how they adapt to other places. What would be really exciting is to look at Asian religions as they're encountered in the West, but you can only do so much. And we're going to go over a lot of religions. All right. Yes, I said that. The last 4 weeks of we'll just leave that aside. India is the birthplace of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and Indian Islam is a unique tradition, equally Indian and Muslim. So those are just the Indian things. So as such, we will begin our course on the Indian religions in the Indic context, studying both doctrines and case studies of these religions in history and on the ground. Intro to Asian religions rarely deals with Islam, but as we're going to see, there are more Muslims living in India and Pakistan, and especially if you throw in Indonesia and Bangladesh and Pakistan and whatnot. If you put those all together, there are more Muslims living in Asia than there are in the Arabic world. As I said, the second part of the course will describe Buddhist cultures of Tibet, China, and Southeast Asia, stressing the manner in which these Buddhist cultures set down roots, becoming religions with roots in Indic traditions, but becoming thoroughly of their place. Overall, emphases will be placed on identity, ritual, art, magic, and worship, as opposed to specific doctrines, truth claims, or articles of faith. While this is an asynchronous online course, and students can progress at their own rate, regular assignments and discussion forums will have deadlines, and students must fulfill these deadlines in order to maintain the learning community of all of us and to get the most out of the class. If you get behind, you will get steamrolled and have little chance of keeping up. I'll say this innumerable times. You got to keep up on the deadlines. I teach online all the time, and I always see that students, once they get, even like two classes, if they get more than one class behind, the next thing you know, they're 4 classes behind, and there's just too much work to ever get caught up, and you get really discouraged, and I don't want to see that for anybody. I want y'all to be really successful. What are our objectives? Students will be able to articulate key doctrines, terms, and histories of Indic origin religions and their lives in Central, East, and Southeast Asia. Gain an awareness of the geographies of Asia, articulate various modes of religion on the ground for Indic origin religions, noting overlaps and divergencies whenever possible, describe how Indic origin religion set down roots in cultures throughout Tibet, China, and Southeast Asia. And all of these geographical zones are going to be really clear to you because we're going to go over them with every religion we discuss, with every module. I want you to be able to articulate theoretical themes such as polytheism, worship of many gods. What does it mean to study religion on the ground as opposed to in a book? Literary versus vernacular, so that's spoken versus written in a book. Pragmatic ritual technologies, or what I call magic. The effect of colonialism. Remember that India in particular was colonized between 1600 and 1947, so that's a long swath. Now, the French were found in Southeast Asia. China was never colonized, but they had a reaction against the British quite a bit. And we're going to talk about how China and Tibet often would try to colonize one another throughout time. So, yes. Religion in modernity, in modern times. How did religions adapt to contemporary times? For 6, I want you to locate religious themes in contemporary cultures and politics. So that means take the contents of the course and see how they're relevant to what we see in the contemporary world. Demonstrate key rhetorical strategies in writing. Namely, I want you to be good with topics and theses using topic sentences, structuring your essays into intro, body, and conclusions. I'll be asking you to assess and evaluate evidence, choosing the most effective evidence for varied rhetorical tasks. And I will want you to write in multiple genres about the religions of the religions of Asia. Now, just a quick sense for you to understand how a class is going to work. You will get, the module will open up. You'll have some introductory videos to get your brain thinking. Then I'll give you my objectives for the day. Those will be written out. Then I'll give you the PowerPoint. So for those of you that want to follow along with the PowerPoint or print it out or take notes on it, whatever you want. I've never understood that, but students like it. Then you'll have a video, which will be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. Then after that, I'll ask you to do a discussion forum, which I call group writing. Those generally take students about a half an hour. And then we'll have some sort of a short writing assignment that can range from, it'll usually be about 250 words. So you'll have to write, 250 word, that's 1 typewritten page essay a week. So figure out how to work all that together, break it up. Little tasks is the best way to do it, and just do a little bit every day and you'll have no problems. All right, course materials. So you can get our 3 texts that we're going to be reading at the, at the YSU bookstore. Now, the first one I want to look at is William Dalrymple's 9 Lives. This is the best writing I have ever read on sort of Asian religions. And these are it's a collection of stories about 9 religious people in contemporary India, and it talks about their religions and talks about them. And Dalrymple is just a beautiful writer. You're really going to enjoy it. I believe I had Strunk and White's Elements of Style. That should be on the board there. Sorry, I don't have it on the syllabus. This is a great little text. It was written by William Strunk, who was a writing teacher. And then E.B. White went by, and he was Strunk's student. You may remember the name E.B. White. He wrote Charlotte's Web. This is a tight little book We're going to go through it when I get to my sort of writing lessons for you. I go through this continually. They say that it's small enough you can put it in your back pocket and carry it around with you. And I've even been known to do this. I always teach this book. It's the best little book on writing and rhetoric. Then we're going to look at this classic text, The Religions of Indian Practice. It's edited by Donald Lopez, who's a professor of Tibetan Buddhism. It's a really cool book. It's filled with essays that will give you an overall understanding of a topic, and then it'll have a translation. It's really useful for just getting an overall understanding of India and going into some tight case studies. I'll also have other readings that will be put up on Blackboard. We're going to look at Vasudha Narayana's Hinduism book, and I'm going to get you a PDF scan of that because they just jacked the price to the point that I'm not willing to assign it anymore for students to buy. All right, so reading note. There's quite a bit of reading for this course. Students should read with a purpose. Do not try to incorporate every bit of data in the reading, but focus on overall themes. I expect you to thoroughly read every word that I assign, but I also realize that this is difficult, and it's usually not effective. I suggest you read carefully anything that you find particularly interesting. But when you look at the modules, you should look at the assignments and discussions before you do the reading and watch the lecture to figure out what is important so you can figure out what to read carefully, maybe what to skim, maybe what to ignore. I want to talk to you about this throughout the course. Reading strategies. Read with a purpose. Students get intimidated because they're like, I got to read absolutely everything. Or they're like, I don't want to read anything. Just pick out what seems to be the most important things in the readings to fulfill the assignments. And if anything seems relevant to you on a paper, you'll want to read that carefully and take notes. Okay. Do not get bogged down in learning all of the Sanskrit and Asian language terms. I will tell you in the lecture any words you absolutely need to know. Also, you can get together with the other people in the class and work in groups to divide up the reading and teach one another. Some students find it better to do the reading after watching the lecture, but I don't recommend this. I think the reading prepares you for the lectures. It gets your schemas all activated to what I'm going to describe. But hey, you do you, and do what works best to assimilate as much of the material as thoroughly as possible. Take notes whenever possible. If it is helpful, print out the readings so you can annotate them. Personally, I can't read well on a computer screen, so I print out everything. So here is a key point, and I can't say this enough. Unless outside research is specified, all assignments should draw from in-class materials. So if you do your assignments and you ignore the in-class materials in favor of doing outside research, I'll probably dock you on points if you consistently do this. The course is designed for you to build on specific skills based on the assigned reading. I don't want you going out and reading across the internet, mostly because a lot of the stuff out on the internet is bad. And while it's easy to Google up and get, a half-baked idea, if you just work on the readings that I've assigned to you, you're going to come up with much better materials. Students who consistently fail to use in-class readings will be met with substantial grade reductions because you're not doing the assignment. The assignment says, use the readings from the course. As I have a professor friend who always says, why can't the students just do the reading and use the readings to, do the assignments? Why do they keep going out and doing all this Googling and whatnot? I just use what I give you. You don't need to do other work unless I ask you to go outside and do other readings. All right, so I want to go through sort of what happens in these assignments and how I'm going to assess you. So readings support key themes in the lectures, but lectures provide the full content of the course. Just watching the videos or just doing the reading is not sufficient. Other assignments, which will be described below, will provide students opportunities to synthesize, analyze, and question the course contents. Be sure to read group writing and short writing assignments carefully before doing the writing, while writing, and before submitting. The most heavily weighted category on all the course rubrics is, did they do the assignment? So what I mean by this is when I give you an assignment, read it once, and then read it again really carefully. And then as you're doing the assignment or doing the group discussion, the group writing, go back and make sure to read the prompt and make sure you're actually doing it. Students lose a lot of points by just not doing what I tell you. I try to make these assignments as clear as possible. And when they're not clear, let me know, and I'll try to make them more clear for you. I want you to do well. And a lot of students lose points just by not doing the tasks that have been assigned in the details in which they're assigned. The majority of students' work is short writing assignments and discussions, or what I call group writing. Though we will write a midterm and a final research paper. In order to give students as many opportunities to score points, I'm not going to, sorry, I forgot about that. We're not going to have exams. I decided they don't work online. I keep trying to do them. They don't work well. So we're going to do discussion boards and short writings and 2 papers, your midterm and your final. And those will be cumulative. And don't worry, they're not long. They're not 20-page papers. It's like, I think I'll have you do a 7 pages and 5 pages, maybe even 5 pages and 3 pages. I don't want you writing extensively. I want you to write well, and I want you to write like sort of nice, solid, tight essays. Okay. Discussion boards will require students to prepare written posts and responses, but also to occasionally create videos and multimedia. I like doing make a meme assignments where you'll make up a meme and then describe that meme, and that'll be your assignment. It's kind of fun. Informal writing assignments range from, I'm going to have a wide range of genres for your short assignments that'll include like writing a letter to someone, making a movie pitch, doing an anthropological report, writing a local newspaper article about the course contents. So, yes, so here I have it. Students will write a 750-word midterm research paper and a 500-word final paper. I might even make those shorter, each making use of internal and external research topics. The majority of materials should pull from the class with not a ton of outside research. Students will have opportunity to gain extra credit by attending philosophy and religious studies lecture events. Should they have them, should the YSU department have lectures, you'll be able to, and I'll have a whole thing set up for you to get extra points on this. But I gotta say, honestly, 60% of your grade can be assured by satisfactorily just completing the assignments. If you just do all the assignments and write all the papers, it's very hard to get a low grade in this class. Any of my students that fail, or even the ones that get Ds, it's just because they didn't do the assignment. I've had students that have scored Cs and have like barely completed all of the assignments, but they completed them all. So do the work, you'll get a perfectly fine grade. All right. I will be adapting my course as we progress to best fit student needs. So the class may differ from the syllabus, especially the reading assignments. Students should regularly check the class modules online, which are the actual requirements. So I will deviate from the syllabus, surely. Each week we'll have a short exit ticket assignment in which students will evaluate each week's course, respond to the course, and make suggestions. These exit tickets will not be an inconsiderable portion of the overall grades, and student responses will directly influence the course as it progresses. I think you can score like over 100. I think I have it set up so you can score over 100 points just by doing these exit tickets. Student participation in discussion forums and completing writing assignments will be the majority of the grade. I want to see you work and process and think about the material. I am less interested in you memorizing dates and vocab words and geographic regions. So the tentative grade breakdown goes like this. Discussion forums and short writing activity assignments are about 50%, exit tickets 10%, midterm research paper 10%. And then I want you to build on it for your final paper, which is 30%. And then you'll have all my feedback, so you should be able to really do well on that. Most students show significant improvement between the midterm and the final. I will alter the weight and point value for assignments as I see fit throughout the course. All right, group writing and participation. So group writing is what I call these discussion boards. Group writing activities will be assigned for most class days. These assignments are traditionally called discussion boards, but little discussion really happens on them. I would like to see you use these as group writing projects in which you are demonstrating your ideas and building upon the ideas of others. The style and register of writing is lower than the informal or the formal writing assignments, but students should write full sentences, capitalize the first word, using punctuation, use standard grammar, express incomplete thoughts, use a spell checker, and be sure to read over your posts several times and edit them before posting. So while it's a discussion board, it's also a group writing assignment, and you should have somewhat polished prose. You're not writing a text. You are engaging in a thoughtful academic discussion, but it's online. The tone should always be respectable and respectful and in line with the etiquette for in-person classes. Should the netiquette disintegrate, I will intervene. Students will typically write one post responding to a prompt and also write 2 responses to other students. This is the basic task. The more engaged posting and responding, the higher the student will be grading. Quotes, citations, and clear engagement with course material will ensure high marks. Include parenthetical citation whenever responsible to the text, e.g. White, 89, or Stewart, 341. The instructor will grade all discussion boards and group writings based on a rubric. You'll have a rubric for every assignment that you'll be able to view. I want you to know exactly how I'm going to be assessing you. Students will be assessed based on their posts and clear responses to other students. The instructor will not regularly comment, for too much instructor participation causes discussion boards to become merely a back and forth with the professor rather than a vibrant learning community. Rest assured, I will read everything, but I'm not going to talk a lot on the discussion boards because otherwise students are just like, well, you know, I don't really read anyone. I see what the professor says and that's it. So I think professors get too involved in these discussion forums. I'm there, but I won't be intervening too much. What about the short writing assignments? So group writing, or these discussion boards, and the short writing assignments are the majority of classwork. Short writing assignments often have a creative component, asking students to process material from the reading and lectures and apply it to a more creative genre, like writing letters, writing movie pitches, travel writing, short stories, and so forth. Make up a religion, make up a god. So I try to keep these kind of light and sort of on the fun side. Invariably, some of you are going to complain and say, I want to write more formal essays. And I'd say, yeah, well, okay. I'll give you the chance to do that as well, but let it be known that I find this to be effective pedagogy in getting students to engage more by having more creative types of writing. Short writing assignments, as I said, are creative. They're not as analytical as a research paper, but you still have to be formal and you need to use proper standard grammar and spelling and write with a clear voice. As I've said many times, be sure to write multiple drafts, edit carefully, and use any grammar and spelling software you see fit. Successful short writing assignments will clearly make reference to course material, show an application of the material to that genre, and demonstrate some interpretation or insight of course material. Students must write at least as many words as specified in the assignment. I'll usually give you a word amount that I want you to shoot for. As you can tell, I take writing kind of seriously. You will, and I was a writing teacher for several years in my undergraduate, and in my undergraduate and graduate work. And I was once a high school English teacher. So one outcome of this class is you're going to write more clearly, and we're going to work on that. And I swear to you, you will get higher grades in other classes based on the sort of writing instruction I'm going to give you in this course. All right, exit tickets. Exit tickets will be written once a week. Students will get full credit merely by completing them with some degree of thoroughness. You can really write 2 sentences, and that's enough, and you'll get full points. This is your chance to tell me what you like and you don't like. What lectures work and what don't work. What assignments and discussion boards are effective or ineffective. Which readings were stimulating and which ones were boring, and so forth. You can mouth off to me, actually. These are easy points for you, and they really help me as I work to fine-tune the class for this time and for the next time I teach it. Students will write a 750-word midterm research paper and a 500-word final paper. I might even make that shorter, each making use of internal and external research topics. Students are encouraged to carry as much material as possible from the midterm into the final. So whatever research you did in the midterm, try to bring it into the final, so you're not reinventing the wheel. The prose of each assignment of each paper must be completely different. Students will be required to use in-class material and to use few out-of-class research materials. I want you to use the reading from class. I don't want you to do too much outside reading. It just makes it harder for everyone. Discussion forums will be provided to support research and composition. So I'll have several like sort of almost writing workshops that we'll do in the discussion forums that will allow you to help one another and me to really kind of work with you on some specific writing strategies and skills. You'll be given detailed prompts during the second week of each half of the course. Actually, I've changed that around. I'll give you the writing prompts, I don't know, relatively soon. But I'm actually going to have the due dates be kind of wonky. So it'll, after the traditional spring break midterm time, like 2 or 3 weeks into that second term, you're actually going to have your first midterm research paper done. This has a couple of advantages. One, you have just more material that you've studied from the course, and you're not writing at the exact same time that you have midterm papers due for all your other courses. Attendance and makeup. This is an asynchronous course, so attendance will not be tracked in the usual manner. You're responsible for fulfilling the assigned tasks before the deadlines. Unsubmitted work will be graded 0 at the time of grading. Don't get behind. It's really hard to catch up. Now, communication with the professor is key. I will grant extensions on a case-to-case basis should a student contact me before the deadlines pass. If you're not going to get it in on time, contact me in advance. We'll make a plan. If you have like 3 or 4 assignments late and you haven't contacted with me, you might still get 0s on them. So the minute you're going to be late and you're going to miss stuff, contact me. We will work it out. I am here for you. I'm not really willing if you blow a whole bunch of deadlines to come back. That's just, otherwise I can't keep up. So Contact me, make a plan for success. No extension will be granted if the professor is contacted after the deadlines. Seriously, the minute you are under pressure and in danger of falling behind, contact me, make a plan for success. Keep in mind that Blackboard tracks and reports the number of times you access the software and the time engaged with the software. This means I know exactly how much you are online. Policy statement regarding plagiarism. And this is a big deal because there's been a lot of plagiarism in my classes at YSU. And when I guest teach at other universities and the other universities, I find plagiarism problems there. Oddly, it's different at every university. So I've kind of crafted this policy to how I do it at YSU. All assignments submitted must represent a student's own work. Plagiarism is a serious offense and will be dealt with accordingly, ranging from failing an assignment to failing the class to being reported for academic discipline with YSU to even expulsion. If you use the words or ideas of others without proper citation of your source, you will be suspended or even expelled from the university. I take this really seriously. And if I suspect you have included any amount of material from uncredited sources, I will investigate vigorously, because if you do this in the real world, you can lose your darn job. And I don't want to see that. Just don't do it. This is what I've really come to. Do not plagiarize, but also do not copy and paste. The majority of my problems I find with plagiarism is students that copy and paste from Wikipedia or a web page, and then they just plunk it in and they don't cite it. And that's plagiarism, pure and simple. It's cheating. So one thing you can do to just keep yourself on the straight and narrow is just don't use the copy and paste function. You're going to want to. You're going to want to copy a sentence here and there from Wikipedia or some web page and put it in to jazz up your writing. Do not do it. I will catch you. All right, so do not copy and paste ever in any of the assignments. Copy and paste misuse is at the root of almost all inadvertent plagiarism. Do not mine internet sources for material in your assignments. Just use the assignments that use the readings and the material that I assign to you. Do not mine internet sources for material in your assignments. Anytime you use information from a web page or online source or a book, you must either quote it directly and cite it, or you must rewrite and paraphrase those words and also cite it. Oh, you can't cite too much. Cite everything. It looks great, in fact, and it'll make all your professors from here on out happy when you cite. Any instance of plagiarizing can amount to dramatic repercussions, not excluding failing the class and even expulsion from the university. I always prefer evidence and quotes from course materials rather than outside sources, except in occasions when I specifically ask for outside research. Just use the materials that I assign you. I will enable anti-plagiarism software on all your assignments, which will check your work against other YSU students' work, student paper databases worldwide, and across public sites across the internet. This is where I catch most of my plagiarists. Should the software flag student writing, so if Blackboard says there's a high instance of plagiarism here, I will investigate. Now, there's a quality mag library research for avoiding plagiarism. You can use that link there to look at it. And you can also use a plagiarism checker. The library website has a number of them. So click on that one to do a little research on how to not plagiarize. Now, note, if you're a student with a documented disability and you'd like to discuss special academic accommodations, contact me at the beginning of the course. Contact me. If you have any sort of documented disabilities and learning differences, I'm here for you. I'm dyslexic. I will work with you. I will work with you as carefully as I can for you to be successful. Also, if you're an ESL student, if English is your second language, discuss this with me. If you don't self-advocate, I can't help you. And the way that the university sort of reports these issues to me is not terribly great. So talk to me. I will work it out with you. I want you to succeed. I am your biggest fan. I want you to do very well in my course. I take these accommodations of ESL and learning differences very seriously, and I will do my best to help you. Understand that I understand the hardships of writing in a foreign language, since my own work involves learning numerous archaic Asian languages. I mean, I speak Hindi, I study Sanskrit, it's a very difficult language. I read literary and I speak colloquial Tibetan, and I've learned to do those things and even take classes in those courses. And it's hard writing, you're trying to get your ideas out and you're still trying to, make the grammar work and be coherent. It's hard. I get it. So if English is your second language, I get it. Let's work it out. Here are all the different YSU policies that you see in all your courses. You can go back and look at those on the syllabus. All right, I'm going to really quick do a week-to-week breakdown because I want you to get on with your lives. So we're going to start out by talking about Hinduism, and because Hinduism is kind of going to be like everything grows out of Hinduism in a lot of ways. So we're going to go over Hinduism for a couple of weeks because we're going to build off of it so much. And hey, it's my expertise. So you'll have kind of a long lecture that I want you to watch, but it's kind of a fun lecture. I think you'll like it. It's called the Big 25, where I talk about 25 things that are Hinduism. And you'll get to see me being spastic and showing pictures. Then we're going to talk about Vedic religion, which is the earliest form of Indian religion. Then we're going to talk about polytheism. So Vedic ritual is what we're really going to be looking at, which is some really interesting and wild and old cool stuff, and a lot about sacrifice. Then we're going to talk about polytheism and what it means to be polytheistic. Now, realize that most of us are raised in monotheistic traditions, but monotheism is not the religion of the world. It's this blazing, crazy idea where everybody was polytheistic, and then suddenly God intervenes and says, there's one God. And that's a thing we take for granted, just how wild that is, how different that is from other religious traditions. So Hinduism is polytheistic, and we're going to talk about what it means to have, these multiple high gods, and then all sorts of little gods all over the place, and then even like unnamed gods. So you have all these levels and all these deities and all of these forces that interact in the world. We're going to talk about Hindu philosophy, including yoga, and we're going to talk about some of like the main key ideas in Hindu thought. This is a fun lecture. And then we're going to talk about some people that do those philosophies, including yogis, people who do yogis, sadhus, or Hindu renunciates, who wander the earth teaching and practicing the religion, and Tantra. My expertise is Tantra, and we're going to talk about what is Tantra. Okay, then we're going to move into Indian Buddhism, and you'll notice here for a lot of these religions will have 4 modules over 2 weeks. So Indian Buddhism, we'll talk about the life of the Buddha, we'll talk about the challenge of the Buddha to Hindus, and we'll talk about the unique types of Indian Buddhist cultures, which is intriguing because Indian Buddhism has pretty much died out, but the Buddhism of India has taken root in many other cultures. So we all have looked at philosophy and the different vehicles of Hinduism. Then we're going to move on and talk about sort of competition between Hindus. You'll notice that I have on the syllabus, as I'm going over it, all sorts of sort of like reading questions. These will be in the modules too, because I don't want you to just have these books and go like, what am I looking for? I want you to read with purpose. So I'll give you some instructions for what to look for in the reading to guide you, so you're just not in the dark. We're all doing this together. Then we're going to talk about Buddhism and Buddhist sites. In particular, we're going to look at a really cool old Buddhist monastery that is, anywhere from certain parts of it are 2,000 years old. Other parts of them are about 1,000 years old. It's kind of great. And I've been there a couple times. Then we're going to move into Jainism. Jainism is a religion that a lot of people don't know about. And universally, when I teach this course, students get really excited about Jainism. So what is Jainism? I just want to very briefly say, they believe in absolutely extreme ahimsa, or nonviolence, and extreme vegetarianism. In fact, their monks actually pluck out all of their hair and walk around with a mask in over their face, as we all do these days, to keep anybody from accidentally inhaling a bug. And they'll actually sweep with a broom in front of themselves so they don't accidentally step on a bug. They believe in absolute nonviolence and trying to reduce the amount of karmas you can have to the point that you are doing such non-action that you are not generating any more karma. And we're going to really go into that. It's kind of cool. We'll talk about the founder. Then we're going to talk about Tirthankaras, who are sort of like the saints of Jainism. Then we're going to talk about the split between Shwetambaras and Digambaras. This refers to whether their monks wear white clothing or whether they go about completely naked. Shwetambara, clothed in white. Digambara, clothed in the sky, i.e. naked. Then we're going to talk about different Jain worship practices. Next, we're going to go on to Islam in South Asia. Like I said, I really want to do a lot with Islam because Islam is such a big deal and in Asia, and it's so different from the Islam of the Arabic world. So I think you'll enjoy it. I really dig teaching about Islam in South Asia. And when I'm in India, I go to more mosques than anything lately because I find them so intriguing. So we'll talk about what's distinct about Islam in South Asia. This will be the first religion we've looked at that didn't just start straight up in South Asia. It started somewhere else, but it really spread and adapted and became its own thing in India and in Asia. All right, spring break. All right, so you got to look at the YSU COVID policies. They're not giving you a week off, but they're giving you different like days off all over the place. So what I've decided to do is I'm just going to teach the course straight up, and then I'm going to give you an extra week at the end where maybe I'll have like a half an hour video and you can just work on catching up, executing a success plan. If you've got late work, doing extra credit, working on your papers. I just think this is the best way to do it. I might adjust your due dates so that like you have an extra day. So you'll have 6 days instead of 5 days to get an assignment done on those weeks that you are supposed to have a break day. But I think this is the best way for everybody. I know it's a slog. I wish you could have spring break. You can't. Life stinks. Whatever. Okay, we'll continue on Islam in South Asia, and we're going to talk about a specific town in which there is remarkable connection between Hindus and Muslims, and there isn't a lot of religious violence. Finally, we will look at Muslim saints and their different lives. So we'll look at specific Muslim lives in India. Next, we will move on to Sikhism. Not a lot of people know about Sikhism, but Sikhism is a big deal. Sikhism is a religion that originates in the Punjab, in an area of India. You will recognize Sikhs by the way they wear their turbans and their long beards, even though all Sikhs do not have long beards and turbans. So first off, we will talk in general about Sikhism, which is a religion that is either monotheistic or monistic. Either they believe that God is one entity, very much like Christianity, but not quite the same, or they believe that everything is essentially one and is God. Then we'll talk about the different 10 gurus and their lives and their lives in history, and that's a fascinating story. Then we're going to talk about the Khalsa. These are the dudes with the beards and the turbans, and women as well are in the Khalsa, which is the sort of Orthodox Sikhs. You'll also notice that as the class progresses, as we move out of Hinduism, our readings get a little bit tighter and more refined, probably because Hinduism is just all over the place, and I've been able to kind of like really fine-tune the readings for some of these later religions that we look at. Now, after we do Sikhism, we are going to go to China. And in fact, you'll have your papers due right around this time too. I don't have it on the syllabus here, but I'll announce it later. So Chinese religions, we're going to talk about the 3 major Chinese religions, which are Confucianism, Taoism, and Chinese folk religions. But then we're going to get into something else, which is Buddhism, because Buddhism comes to China. This is a really fun section because we get to look at a lot of these religious ideas in a really different context. So we will do 2 weeks on Chinese religions. And then finally we get to Tibetan Buddhism, which this section students really like. Now, at one point in my life, I was actually going to specialize in Tibetan. So that's why I speak Tibetan, I read Tibetan. I spent about 5 years studying it pretty intensely. But as my research continued, I became back more focused on Hinduism. So we'll look at the history of Tibet and how Buddhism comes to Tibet. Then we'll talk about Tibetan monasticism. Students really like this section where we're going to talk about the different groups and the different ways that Tibetan monks interact. And we're even going to look at the dope-dopes, who are basically punk monks. They're monks who are... You'll like the section on the dope-dopes, trust me. They're kind of like unorthodox thug monks. They're pretty cool. And also, if we can get the chance, I'm going to get my buddy Ben Joff to come in and talk to us a little bit more about Tibetan Buddhism. All right, then we will talk about Tibetan Buddhist ritual. In particular, we are actually going to talk about not only rituals that happen in temples, but rituals that sort of sorcerers do in Tibet. And finally, we are going to conclude with Tibetan Buddhism and death and conscious death techniques and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And it's good stuff. We're going to enjoy it. You're going to really enjoy the rolling it up. Then for our final module, like I said, conclusion, I'll give a little video, work on your papers, extra credit. You will have a full week because of the way this shakes out at the end. So I'm not going to give you any more assignments or any more readings. You're going to have a week to work and catch up. Finally, your last paper will be due the first day of the exams. So that will be on May 3rd at 11:59. Usually when I teach in person, I have my papers due the last day of class. But I'm going to give you a little bit. I'm actually going to give you, over a week after class ends to just work on your papers. Actually, it's like a week and a half. So that's good. That'll be due at 11:59, and that'll be it. That'll be the class. All right, so your only assignment that you're going to have is to record an introductory video, and I'll put that up, and you'll have the directions there, and that's it. So I look forward to seeing you again when we do the Big 25 and we start talking about Hinduism. So it's my pleasure to meet all of you. I'm Dr. Ullery. I'm signing off, and you're going to see this ugly mug a fair bit. I think we're going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be a good class. I look forward to getting to know all of you and to taking this journey together. It's going to be fun. All right. I'll see you soon.